Fire in the
live.
hole. Yeah,
We're
we're live
live.
again. How many times have we said that? 300 and something. We're live. It's like the same spill, but I guess it's about consistency. You know,
Yeah,
we're
we are
consistent.
consistent. We are consistent. Literally, my X notification didn't even ding, but it was already on my phone.
Oh, your Twitter, not like your ex notification, like ex-wife,
Yeah, yeah,
ex-client,
yeah.
ex-girlfriend. Okay.
Yeah, Twitter. I'm sorry. I mean, look, I have to just say it the way I remember it. I mean, it's like that outdoor news show. Somebody was like, he doesn't even know what a black-bellied tree duck or a whistling duck are the different. You know what? It don't matter. They're both pterodactyls. They look flying in with those big old floppy feet. I mean, that gum.
Yeah,
What does
the
it matter?
pterodactyl comment cracked me up because that's literally what they look like. So,
Boy, Boy, on that note, have I got something to tell you about them pterodactyls. Whoo, but we'll save that for Thursday night on the outdoor news. But
could be interesting. Oh, hey, I'm gonna kind of throw this at you, but may as well throw it at you live
yeah,
because I just thought about it. So I will be out of town Monday night, which is I guess the PEC meeting. I got an email notice, and Tuesday night as well. And I got to check. I think we're supposed to be back Thursday. So not this
mm,
week, obviously, because well, I'm here now and we're live. But next week we'll have to make some plans. I'll find out for sure Thursday of next week. I'll be here this Thursday. Anyway,
well, I will have to see. I was high achieving, and I already had a guest scheduled for next show, so I
next
will have to.
Next Tuesday bowler
Yes,
watch.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I was high achieving. You'd
Well,
finally be proud of me.
I guess technically, if we're going down to New Orleans, don't ask.
Yeah, no.
But
You need to be paying attention. You don't need to be worrying about this. So we'll reschedule that and go
yeah.
from there.
So anyway, just to throw that on you while we're live, and oh, I see we got a few people watching. Hello, Cindy, Val, Miss Jessica. Let's throw a few comments up there. And Bolton Denny is watching and says good evening. So yeah, we got a few people tuning in.
Well, I was just wondering, how many vacations have you been on this year?
Me? None. Let me make sure I didn't just lie. Uh, I, I don't think. Well, they must not have been good vacations. If I oh well, I did make one trip, but it wasn't really a vacation because we went out to where was it, Fort Benning or whatever, to watch Jeremy jump out of airplanes.
Yeah,
But
yeah, mhm,
I don't think I've been on a vacation. I mean, I don't
right.
do too many. I go fishing. You know.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, y'all in the comments. How many vacations have y'all already been on in this year? I mean, how many vacations is normal, or how many trips are normal for somebody,
I
a
don't.
year?
Well,
Normal
I mean,
people.
look, normal people that have normal jobs, they get 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, 1 week, whatever of vacation time. I mean, I hadn't had a vacation and well, I mean, like where I have paid vacation ever. I've never
Well,
worked a job where I got paid, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Don't take this the wrong way, but I've never worked at a job where I got paid vacation.
right, right, right. Well, I gotta adjust my camera. Look at there. I'm about to fall off the cliff.
Mm,
How about that?
that's a little better.
Um, well, when we come back off of our little break here, I want to go through a couple of cuts because you know me, I'm not like a dog with a bone, and I kind of got a little bit of a bone, um, about one of our elected officials. It seems like they're like on a constant vacation,
Oh,
constant, like always.
must be
I,
nice.
I mean, LSU in the College World Series, they were there, you
Yeah.
know. then they were, I don't know, maybe we don't consider that a vacation, and then, I mean, I just seen them up in, I think, Wyoming or something like that. They was up there in the Rocky or in the Tetons on on another vacation. And then now I see more posts of fishing trips, catching a red snapper on another trip. And then I see they're down at the tarpon rodeo. And I'm just wondering what's normal for people taking trips. And I don't know. It's got me thinking maybe I need to get me one of these government jobs. And I don't know.
Apparently, I'm in the wrong business. I mean, now, granted, I, for the last 20 plus years, have worked for myself. So, I mean, we have taken some vacations, but I mean, I work during the vacations. Like, it's not like I quit answering the phone. Now, if I want to go somewhere, if I want to go do a 2 or 3 day fishing trip, as long as I don't have any work I've got to get done, then yeah, I take it. So I'm not saying I've never been on vacation, but I don't know. I just,
Well, I mean, just, I think the majority of folks, like I see a lot of folks here saying, one vacation a year. Jessica Maddox, high achieving, they're at two. But I think for the most part, people take one trip a year, conservative, but I don't think they're going taking weeks and then every weekend they're fishing, fishing in the Gulf one weekend, then they're tarpon rodeo in one weekend, then they're in the Tetons one weekend or 1 week or however long for that vacation, at LSU baseball games before. I mean, that's
so,
not a normal person lifestyle. Does it sound like it to you?
well, no, it doesn't. It must be nice unless you're independently wealthy. And now you got me intrigued. So I kind of cheated. I'm not going to say, but I kind of cheated and took a look at one of the cuts. And I'll just pose this question before we go to the break. I wonder if these vacations are being taken on the taxpayer dime.
I don't know. I'm wondering too, but and the reason that I posed that question, and you know why? I mean, it's almost as if there's their job doesn't require them. There's no work for them to do. Yeah, I mean,
It's kind of like Tommy taking selfies all the time. Selfies here, selfies there, selfies everywhere in Bossier. But I
yeah. I
digress.
mean, no, there must not be any work, any crime, or anything going on. Hint, hint. But we'll come back to that when we come back.
Yeah, and we'll explain the meaning of the name of the show. 2,600 meters is pretty deep. I mean, there's 3.3 feet in a meter, so that would be 618, 7,800 plus feet deep. So 2,600 meters is pretty deep.
You know what's ironic? And when we come back, maybe somebody here may remember another city that had an issue with water meters and their billing and estimations.
Hmm.
When
Oh,
when and where have we heard about that before?
I've told that story before about our situation in Ruston. I'll give a very, very brief synopsis of it again when we come back. Very brief.
Ruston was not the city I was talking about. It's a lot closer than Ruston.
See, I'm going to tell the quick version of my Ruston story again. All right. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to hit the countdown. There's Miss Ruth. She popped in. Hello, Miss Ruth. I'm going to hit the countdown, and we'll go ahead and get that out of the way. Folks, y'all know the drill. We'll be back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Go ahead and like, share, tag folks, and let them know we're going to be talking about a very deep subject tonight. 2,600 meters deep. How about that, Mr. Lowry? For a teaser.
Love it.
Let's go.
A lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse.
Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS. We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, you know, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And we're back. So let me share and remind folks, I've told this story, I think, more than once on the show. I'll make it a very brief deal. So my parents used to co-own an apartment complex, a real nice apartment complex in Ruston with my grandfather. It's where I spent high school and junior high and all that in early 90s. Anyway, long story made short, the original buildings, the original 10 buildings, there were 14 total. The original 10 were all on 1 meter, including a washateria with, I remember right, 8 commercial grade washing machines and a 36 or 38,000 gallon swimming pool, all on 1 meter. Okay. And an in-ground sprinkler system and manicured lawns on 5 acres. Well, the meter broke, and so they did a estimated water deal. The water bill was $100 a month for all of that. We watered the grass literally every day, all day. I mean, it was insane. So anyway, fast forward, my dad, you know, rest his soul, always liked to keep stuff. He was a pack rat, and this is where it served him well, because he kept those water bills all that time, and he would periodically send the city of Ruston certified letters letting them know the water meter was still broken and they had not fixed it. And he kept all those letters. I mean, this went on for like 10 years. I don't know. Anyway, one day, they decided to finally replace that meter and figured out how much water was being used, and they tried to bill him like $50,000 or some insane number. Mom could probably remember. But anyway, it was a lot of money. Dad was like, no. He called his attorney. He went down to city council meetings. He had all the certified letters. Said, no, this is on y'all. I have told y'all and told y'all and told y'all. And the guy comes out there, looks, the meter's broken, and he just writes down a number. Now, that should clue everybody into the title of the show up there, 2,600 meters. But go ahead. What about your city?
Well, I wasn't talking about Ruston, and I see in the comments Val Baker says Halton. No, I'm not talking about Halton. And I think there might have been a winner in the comments, but I don't see it on my little comment thread. But it was Ryan Haygood. He said something to the effect of, ask what was that? Jerry Harper, that attorney. Ask Jerry Harper. Does anybody know Jerry Harper?
Yeah.
Jerry Harper was in a big lawsuit thing, wasn't he?
I'm trying to remember all of that. Let's see. Refresh my memory. So what was the deal with Mr. Harper? Was that
Shreveport.
Shreveport. Yeah, across the river over there where they have all those problems. Supposedly.
That's right. He was on top of some problem with billing and meters and all that stuff. And I may be mistaken, but when they had that problem, I think they had somebody over there administering their stuff over there. It's a
Yeah, some
company,
kind
a,
of
a public,
common company. What? And I'm
a
trying to
public.
remember what their logo looks like. Anyway,
Maybe it was a public-private partnership or something like that too.
Mm,
But come to think of it, what wasn't it? Man Shack? Was that it?
I think it was, but they're not. They're the company formerly known as Manchac now.
That's right. That's right. You know, formerly known as.
Formerly, it's
But
like
but
the artist
with
formerly known as Prince.
but of course, they've moved on from Shreveport, and I mean, nah, it's whatever their name is now, and they're in Bossier,
Yeah,
and voila, Bossier's got issues.
wash, rinse, repeat. Some real issues, yeah. And Mr. Hammonds, we'll see here in a little bit when we get to the city council meeting, but Mr. Hammonds, kind of like that whole parking lot saga, he kind of dropped the bomb and the mic at the same time in the city council meeting today.
Well, hey, back about these vacations. How I would like to be able to go and take a vacation. I'd like to go down to the Gulf and catch me some red snapper, and I'd like to go to them LSU baseball games and all that stuff. But I mean, just can't do it. Things are tight, and times are tough, and just having to be frugal. But then I'm not an elected official. I guess if I was an elected official and whatever my elected duties were, there wasn't enough stuff going on that needed me, I guess I would just go on vacations all the time and stuff.
Yeah, and look, somebody could go on vacation and just neglect, open meeting violation investigations and all sorts of things. Just the heck with all that. I'll just go on vacation and take selfies. Shall we take a look at it?
It's not like you've got mayors and their people, paving parking lots with city taxpayer dollars, just on private individual. It ain't like you got that kind of thing going.
Yeah.
It ain't like you've got, offices going and chasing down witnesses in other states to, make complaints against people or other individuals talking about Minden over there and what they got going. I mean, it ain't like you've got any kind of public stuff. It ain't like you got judges saying that people committed malfeasance or not, and saying that. I mean, and it ain't like you've got countless citizens filing complaints, and including me, yours truly, making complaints, or even trying to get their office on the phone to about other agencies not doing their job, and you've got no one else to turn to. But I digress. I mean, you know what? Just take a vacation.
But it's not that I personally begrudge anybody for taking a vacation. If you work hard, that's fine. But like you said, the problem is taking the vacations when just ignoring the people. I got a question though. This is interesting. So were these pictures posted? They must have been posted on different days and just the dates, because I was going to say, how did she go from Grand Isle to, it looks like, what, Wyoming, Colorado, or somewhere? I mean, that's a pretty quick trip.
Just days ago, and you'll notice the follow.
Yeah.
Used to be friends, and I used to be friends in there. Yeah, that's another one right there. And in fact, look at there, yours truly. Down below it, I actually put a comment in there. How about that? Wish I could do that, but too busy fighting to hang on to my business and compete against illegal activities that your office can't even be bothered to return a call. Maybe I should just throw in with the corruption.
Look, that's pretty stout, but I can't say that I blame you. I mean, paging Liz. We're up here in Bossier, North Louisiana does exist beyond just getting our votes.
Yeah, and you watch. I mean, she will. No, their office can't do nothing about parking lots. If there is illegal activities or ended up being to be found have taken place in that, and everybody is entitled to their opinion as to whether or not anything unethical took place or not. But it will be interesting as to whether the AG's office does anything or not, or is she going to fall back and say, well, we Do the old Alan Seabiscuit routine. Well, there's nothing the AG's office can do. We can't even investigate, even though, like we've shown on this show, that she can conduct investigations and
Oh
she
yeah,
can do stuff.
yeah. It's part of the law and part of her duties. But it's like I was on my soapbox about Trump and lock her up and Hillary and all that. And even though he's swung the media cameras back over to the whole Clinton thing and the Russiagate and all that, and I get it to distract from the not releasing the Epstein files and bungling that initially, and although he's doing better. But I mean, do you really think now? And maybe the Department of Justice will do something about it. Maybe the FBI will investigate and actually do something and move the needle on the whole Clinton situation and the Russiagate and Russia hoax and all that. But do you really think they probably have the attitude? Well, they were president, 16 years ago. Just let bygones be bygones. Maybe that's what Liz figures. Hey, those councilmen are out of there, so what the heck?
I guess I'm just jealous. I wish that I could just throw in the towel and say to hell with it. I'm just going to go on vacation. I wish I could do that, but I can't do that. I mean, I'm having to on our own, just like in Bossier City with the term limits. I mean, we had to fight it by ourselves. We got no help from down there from her office. They were AWOL. They didn't do a damn thing to help us. And I mean, the people of Bossier, I don't know. Y'all are supporting. We'll keep that. We'll call this segment Vacation Watch, the Attorney General's Vacation Watch. That's what we'll name this segment from now on. So when we see the next vacation, we'll let y'all know. And every time we see a vacation trip being taken, y'all just think about how many times in Bossier things that have went to her office have went to die and being ignored. She has no interest in prosecuting the law in Bossier Parish. None whatsoever, zero. Why is that?
Yeah, and not just that. I wonder if, and I'm not saying they are, I wonder if those vacations are on the taxpayer dime. Are they official duties of the Office of the Attorney General? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. That's all.
Well, I mean, I would put a public information request in, but the last one I put in was I asked their office to show me where anywhere in Louisiana law exempts her responsibility of Bossier Parish, to which they replied they have no responsive records.
That's the same as saying, Senator, I do not recall. That's basically the same thing. Your Honor, I do not recall.
Yeah, I do not recall. Anyway, so as we move into the kind of the next section, well, we'll come back to that. I did have an X link. Tulsi Gabbard's being censored by, Facebook and all that stuff again. That's pretty cool. But that actually would kind of tie in a little bit when we get our guests in. But hey, did you see the last council meeting? And when I think we can go through this pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember at the last council meeting that there was, at the beginning of the meeting, it was a short meeting. It was like 30 something minutes, but there was one guy that talked for the majority of the meeting.
Now, wait, you're talking about not today's meeting, not the workshop yesterday, but I guess it would be
The
2
meeting
weeks
before
ago.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not looking at notes, are you?
Not yet. I'm trying to pull them up quickly. And I don't see the notes right now, but I will find them.
Yeah, okay. Well,
let me get over to the. Oh, there they are. Hold on. Let me get to the
notes.
Let me play catch up.
I'm doing my best, folks. So,
all right.
If you pull that one up, that video, and get ready to play.
Yes.
There was a guy from Comcast there, and I thought it was odd. I didn't think nothing about it when we went through this council meeting the other show. I didn't think much about it. I just kind of blew it off. And this cat here, he comes up and he gets to speaking, and I didn't really understand what it was or why he was kind of talking. It caught me off guard, but I got a phone call, I guess yesterday or maybe even Yeah, it was yesterday regarding a citizen of Bossier that apparently was either ticketed or arrested or had some altercation with the Bossier City Police, and it was over the Mexican army trying to dig a foxhole in her front yard.
What? Whoa. Over the Mexican army trying to dig a foxhole in her front yard. Are you sure they weren't trying to dig to help El Chapo or something?
No, it was an official invasion in Bossier City of the Mexican army, and they were digging a foxhole, getting prepared for war. You think
Okay.
I'm kidding? I'm dead serious about this. But
I am
and
very
then
interested to hear this story one day.
after I got this call, I kind of put two and two together about this guy. So play a little bit of this guy talking. We ain't gonna let him ramble all the way through it, and we'll get to the questions. But play a little bit, and then I'll explain what I'm talking about here.
Okay, just tell me when to stop. Here we go.
Yeah, Ronnie Colvin, Senior Director of External Affairs for Comcast, and Mike McCardle, our Senior Vice President, was supposed to be here today. He spent 6 hours in the Atlanta airport yesterday, and his flight, the last, after 6 p.m., it was canceled, so he's probably live streaming and watching it live stream. So, thank you first. Let me say thank you to each of you and
Okay,
your
that's
channel.
good.
Thank you
Enough.
for
Oh, that
allowing
didn't
me to
take
come
long.
before you today.
I heard enough. Y'all heard who he said. I don't know if they have anything to do with AT&T, but somewhere along the line I heard Xfinity, AT&T, and Comcast. I don't understand all that. Maybe it's all three of them. It may not be AT&T, and maybe that's just me thinking that. But basically, this is the guy coming and giving a report to the council. Again, I thought it was odd about their progress on tearing everybody's yards up or tearing the city up, whatever they're doing. So
Right.
if you jump to the next spot, the 1351 mark, the next mark, and
Okay.
hit play from there, they start talking about how they notify the public.
Oh, okay. And just to clarify, I think this guy is from Comcast. AT&T is laying fiber too, but they would be direct competitors with Comcast. Okay, here we go.
Did a haircut event for veterans and well attended. Mayor, thank you for coming out. Appreciate seeing you. So, we've got a couple of ways that we've been able to, notify our customers and future customers, let's call it. So when we go into a neighborhood, we've put out, door hangers, yard signs, and we've got a couple of websites that we built where people can let us know if there's issues or, find out when the service is going to be available. We got a My Town site that it's a micro site that we created so you can, it's xfinity.com/mytown. So you can go there and see when the
Hey, I want to pause for a second. So it's kind of interesting because as a tech guy, I have a lot of customers, of course, that are on both AT&T and Xfinity. I'm over here on Optimum, so I have a lot of customers that are on Optimum. Used to be Suddenlink. In Shreveport, Xfinity, formerly Comcast, was, hated. Now, not by every customer. Some people never had issues, but I can safely say of a lot of customers in the Shreveport area, a vast majority of them had regular issues with their Comcast service. I'm not talking about just PC issues, issues with their Wi-Fi in their house. I'm talking about straight up Comcast issues. And have you ever been to the Comcast office in Shreveport, dude?
No, sir, I don't go to the Comcast office in Shreveport.
I've been there multiple times, and you know what's interesting about their main office? Now, I haven't been in years, so I can't say, currently, but they literally have bulletproof glass. Like it's in a former bank building, and they kept the bulletproof glass. They're behind Lexan that's probably 2 inches thick.
Well, dadgum, they're in Shreveport. Look, if it was Bossier, they'd have a drop box through the front door. You wouldn't even have glass.
And yeah, just
Don't you
saying.
know,
So.
Bossier statistically, we're unsafe over here. Anyway, go to the next mark.
All right, and just to let you know, both the guests are in the green room.
Okay, okay, excellent. Well, I'll speed up through this here, but I want
All right.
to go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yes, sir.
The big thing I hear or see people talk about is whenever contractors or whoever's coming, they're trying to access their backyard. They're not identifying themselves. They're not they've got a yellow vest that I can go to any hardware
Understood.
store and buy. Are your guys in uniform? Do they have IDs? That I think that would bring a lot of peace to people if they knew they were dealing with.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. All of their vehicles should be marked as, as a business partner for Comcast. And, they should have, like if we're working at a particular area, they should have the permit that's approved, on their dash, to show that
That's key.
they're actually authorized to do this work. And,
Yeah, right there where he said the word permits. Right.
And actually authorized to do. There's a reason he said that. Keep playing.
All right.
And again, having the door tags before we start was an integral part. That's something that we worked with Rodney Taylor early on, and learned a lot from quite frankly, from just some of our mistakes. But that was certainly a valid concern, because not every easement is a rear easement. A lot of times we're working in a front easement. Those are easy accessible.
All right. Yeah. So I guess
There
those
you
are other
go.
key
So-
terms: front easement, rear easement.
That's right, and a valid permit. So Ryan Haygood said in the comments, said there's a lot of complaints. Absolutely, Ryan. And at one point, their city pulled their permits. Well, here's a story, and I know this for a fact because I talked to the landowner that this actually happened to. And the reason I'm telling everybody now that these folks do have a valid permit now, but there was a case, and when I use the terms the Mexican army and digging foxholes, I'm just repeating what I heard. But I talked to a citizen of Bossier, and he got pretty wound up because, as he described it, he's sitting in his house one morning, and all of a sudden he looks up, and there's a truck pulls up in front of his house with a truckload of Mexicans, as he described. They jump all out with a bunch of shovels and proceed to start digging foxholes in his yard. He had no notice, nothing whatsoever. This guy, being retired military, thought we were being invaded. I mean, he was right.
Okay.
We were being invaded.
Right.
He jumps out, confronts them all in his yard, runs them off. The next thing he knows, the Bossier City Popos showing up, and they're proceeding, and they're just following their orders, but they're proceeding to say these people have a right to do this. You can't stop them. And he's like, show me what gives them the right to do it. Well, they pull out a permit. Well, guess what? It wasn't legal. No signatures. No. And as it would turn out, they didn't have a valid permit to do any work in the whole city of Bossier. Nothing.
Really?
Zero, nada. And
Really?
as I appreciated, both the mayor, the city attorney's office, all tried to bully this person to force these people onto their property. Well, ultimately, this guy stood his ground and's like, oh, hell no, you're not, this isn't happening. And he was prepared to go to jail and or to take them to court. Told him, says, you want to fight me? Arrest me? Do what you have to do. You're not coming on my property. And for 6 months, these people couldn't do any work because they didn't have a valid approved permit. Well, fast forward, and now apparently they do have a valid permit to be doing the work. And there was an incident, I'm told, in Green Acres Place with a well-known family where they were refusing to allow them in there. And this time around, the Bossier City Police up, and I'm trying to get the details of exactly what happened, but they either ticketed them, cited them for refusing to allow this company to come on their property to put lines or whatever on their property. Now, I don't know how you feel. The libertarian in me believes, and I had a debate, somebody said to me, they said, well, look, just let the people do their work. They're going to be there for less than, 15, 20 minutes digging their hole and putting it in. Just let them in. I said, but you know what? I said, that's not right. I said, a lot of
Well-
people, the only damn thing they have in this world is their house and their property, and you want to basically take that away from them and tell them they've got
But-
no rights to that, to say who
Let-
can or can't come on your property.
Let
I
me
don't
give
agree
you a
with
real
that.
world. Let me give you a real world story about Comcast, now Xfinity. So one of my customers lives in a very well-to-do neighborhood over in Shreveport. Comcast came out, sold him on Comcast service, which was much better than the AT&T or Bell South DSL that he had. It was a huge improvement. The problem is they ran the line across his entire backyard. This is in a multi-million-dollar house in an older neighborhood. They ran the RG5 cable line across his yard and left it laying there in a manicured lawn for 6 months. He's a lawyer. He threatened to sue him, do all this. He finally, his wife, was on him about it, and he finally called me. He said, I'm just going to pay you to come hang Comcast cable. And he said, if anybody shows up, I'm a lawyer. I'll defend you. If you get arrested, I need you to come hang this cable and get it out of my yard. So I literally had to go, well, I didn't have to, but he paid me well, go hang the cable for Comcast. So I can tell you real world some of how they operate, or at least they used to in the past. Let me put it that way.
Well, that's just ridiculous. These people should not have this power. But I've only got one question for you. Is it a billboard lawyer?
No, he's not a billboard lawyer. Absolutely not.
Okay,
Not an
because
ambulance chaser.
I was fixing to give you grief. You should have hotwired him something about how
Oh,
evil
no.
he is, or something like
No,
that. But
absolutely. No, this guy was a cool, very good customer and very good friend of mine at that point. But all right, so speaking of billboard lawyers and constitutional lawyers, our guests are both in the green room. How do we want to handle this?
Well, I think, this is a good segue. We're sitting here talking about, people's private property and their rights, and just eroding people's rights. And I think that's a similar thing to what's happening with this carbon sequestration. We had a good discussion about it last week with Chuck Owen when he came on the show, and we wanted to get Danny McCormick on during that discussion. And everybody's kind of wanting to get a piece of this. Chris Alexander wanted to get in on this as well too, and we got them both in there. And we I say bring them both in. Because I know Chris has some comments. Bring them both at the same time.
All right, so let me hit the button, and we should be live. Mr. Danny, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, how about you, Chris? Can you hear us? Paging Chris. Guest has muted themselves. Got to unmute or go out and come back in, Chris. And Chris is frozen. All right, so we got Danny here. We'll just have frozen Chris.
Let me ask a question. When I was getting ready here for this podcast, I was listening to and I thought somebody say the Mexican army was digging foxholes in the backyards of Bossier Parish residents, and I started laughing so loud I couldn't hear the rest of it. But you are breaking news. This first I heard of this, but it's a big deal. So I'm glad you broke it.
Yeah. All right. Let me interject in here in a technical issue. So, Chris, we can't hear you yet. It's showing on my end that you've muted yourself. The guest has muted himself. Maybe close all your browsers out and all that or whatever, and then come back in and try it again. And make sure you give your mic permission. All right. So, the whole Mexican army thing had me intrigued too, Danny.
Well, I got to tell y'all, when I came across that story, it was when I was knocking on doors collecting signatures for the term limits thing. And this guy, he's like, hell yeah, I'll sign term limits in Bossier. Give me that paper. And he's proceeded to start telling me all these stories. And he started talking about the Mexican army. And I'm like, the Mexican army? What are you talking about? And I just started dying laughing. It was the funniest thing I ever heard. So, Danny, I didn't give you any heads up about Chris, in which after I talked to you, Chris was like, hey, y'all got Danny coming on, says, look, I want to come on and say just a few words about some of the bills, including what Danny tried to get done and compliment, what y'all were trying to do. And I think he might wanted to have a little bit more, say a little more than maybe what you would say. And I was like, well, I don't know that Danny would have any offense to that, but we'll go from there. How are you, Chris? Can we hear you yet?
Something going on with the audio. I still, on my end, show you as guest has muted themselves. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Yeah,
Well, just send us your comments, Chris.
Yeah, just type them in really fast and we'll read them all. All right, so let's switch screens. Yeah, Chris will have to figure that out. I'm not really sure. Hold on, let me see if I can do some digging. Go ahead, Duke. Take over the mic. Yeah,
so Danny, did you get to see a little bit? I mean, like, how I was talking about elected officials and vacations and all, and I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask how many vacations this year you've been, but I'm confident it's not as many as our Attorney General. I know that for a fact. But
yeah, we were actually in Florida last week, so it was. I was actually watching your podcast, waiting while my wife was in the store shopping, and I saw just a small clip, which kind of led to, we can talk later about that, led to my press release about Thomas Massey and Speaker Johnson. But that, I said it must have been meant for me to see that, because right after that, I started watching. Just a few minutes later, the storm blew in. I lost service. I went over to watch any of the rest of it. But I was able to go to Florida with my wife. Susan will be married 42 years in November. My two children, their spouses, my 6 grandchildren. We had a blessed trip. And when I watched that little clip on y'all's show, I remember texting you, telling you how aggravated I was about it. And you told me to go ahead and finish my trip and enjoy my vacation. Don't let it ruin my vacation. So, but anyhow, yeah, I did take a vacation, but it was you can assure that the taxpayers didn't have anything to do with it. It ought to count them out of our bank account. So.
Well, now I got to ask you, Danny. I mean, I know y'all are as state reps, y'all are very highly paid, and I'm sure they give you full retirement, and you get what, probably, I don't know how much paid vacation time off, right? Isn't that the way that works?
Well, we get about $16,000 a year salary. They're $8,000 for reimbursement, and then we get meals per diem, and then travel expense paid once a week while we're in session, or if we have to go to committee meetings. So, no retirement and no benefits, but just being able to serve the public. So, it's an honor that.
I got an inside question. I'm gonna put you on the spot. How many meals is over there every evening on the grass?
I started one day. I started to shoot a video and said, if you're not here, what's that old saying? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And it's always somebody feeding somebody down there. I mean, you can gain 20 pounds a week down there real easy and not pick up a dime for food. So,
well, hey, this carbon sequestration thing, it is growing. There's a lot more people getting on this thing and getting hip to what's happening, aren't they?
It is, and I can tell you the only people that like this is the people that don't know about it yet. And I mean, it's a grave trespass on our private property rights. It's being funded by our senators and our congressmen with 45, I call them 45Q tax credits. I'm really concerned about our representative in Washington keeps funding this group that's intruding on our private property rights. And I don't know. I guess I could just give you a brief description. I know it's kind of a complicated subject, and it takes a while to get a grasp on it. I mean, I know Chris can attest to that. It's really a complex subject. If you've never been in the oil business, it's a little bit simpler. But they're basically injecting CO2 in the ground. And when they do, it's going to go down and go into a saltwater formation. It's going to turn into carbonic acid, which is very corrosive. These wells, it's so corrosive. These wells, the pipe they put in it cost $1,700–1,800 per foot is what this pipe costs to hold up to this corrosiveness, and it's stupidity. It serves no public purpose, and it's taken away the private property rights of individuals. It stands to strand resources, oil and gas resources that are below this or have a tendency that may be stranded in the future. Saltwater disposal wells, which are just necessary for any kind of oil and gas business. You won't be able to dispose in these zones anymore for the potential of moving the CO2s to someplace. It's the most horrible thing that you can imagine, and it serves no purpose. There's risk in everything. There's risk in shipping crude oil. There's risk in shipping natural gas. There's risk in shipping electricity. But all those have a public use. This is just, government handouts to large corporations, and their only excuse is they're able to sell to the globalists overseas that want this low carbon footprint fuel. And
Well, let me jump in here. Isn't it true? Because I read somewhere that you might have had a vote in favor of all of this at one time in the past, and I think your cohort the other week said that he might have voted for something too, and it seems to have.
I will give you that history, Duke. It was actually the first bill to come through was in 2009, and anything that's not against the law is, all we can do is regulate things. So what happened, and when I was there in 2020, there was a bill carried by Sharon Hewitt that come through the House. We had no information about it till it hit the House floor. It was, if you go back and watch the film, it was portrayed as secondary oil recovery, which they use CO2 for, which is, pro oil and gas. We do that in some places. That's pretty common. And, the truth is, I never heard the word carbon sequestration at my point in life. Didn't know anything about it. I actually blame myself more than anybody else before voting for that bill. Actually, nobody voted against the bill in the House and the Senate. Nobody voted against it. And, with me knowing in the oil and gas business, I feel like I should have asked more questions than I did. But as you very well know, it was right in the middle of COVID. We were fighting all the shutdowns. It was, lots of distractions at the time, and it got past us, and we missed it. And I believe it was 2022, we started realizing what the problem was and started fighting it. And we've been trying to roll it back. And to be honest, couldn't get traction in the community because, everybody says it wasn't coming to their area. But when it started coming to people's area, they started paying attention. So we are getting traction now and being able to push back on these, on some of these issues we have.
Well,
all right, and I'm sitting here just trying to troubleshoot Chris's audio problem. So, y'all go ahead. I'm not frozen.
Right.
I'm just reading screens.
All right. Well, I mean, because I had a good follow up here, and I'm gonna challenge you and put you on the spot just a little bit, Danny. And I'm gonna say, because I'm thinking about it a little bit different. So I know you follow politics pretty good. I mean, and John Fleming, he's being criticized for raising that vote and raising that issue, but interestingly, it sure is bringing a lot of attention to the subject overall. So in a weird kind of way, it kind of seems like to me it's a good debate to be having, a good discussion. A lot of people are paying attention to it, I think, by virtue of that. What's your take?
And I think that's great. I think it needs to be attention brought to it. I will say this, we've been fighting this fight for, 22, 23 in that area when we started pushing back against this. John Fleming just came to the table once he decided to run for office. And, so be it. I don't care. That's okay with me. It seems like he'd be wiser to run against his opponents instead of run against everybody in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, and everybody else. John Fleming to be, our Treasury Fleming seems to be running against everybody that ever existed. But it's his campaign. He can do what he wants. And I'm proud for him. I'm proud it's getting the traction. I think it would have had a little bit more from a principle standpoint if he'd come out against this in 22 or 23. You know, I believe he was actually in Washington when they working for the Trump administration when these 45Q tax credits went into effect. That was before we took office. And it'd been nice for him to get on the phone and call y'all and say, hey guys, the Trump administration is enacting 41Q tax credits up here. You need to be aware of what's happening. But you know, I don't have, you know, more power to him. That, you know, that's politics. And hey, I own my vote. I've apologized to the people for my vote. And hey, you know what? I've made bad votes before then. I'm gonna make bad votes after then. And for your audience, what they may not know, I know y'all know. We may have 100 votes to make a day in the House. We don't get the list of the bills that we're going to vote on to like 7 or 8 o'clock the night before. At one point, I actually even went to hired an outside consultant that stayed up half the night reading the bills so they could give me some idea what my vote should be the next day. We don't have that luxury. Actually, I'm a member of the Freedom Caucus, and they're trying to do that for us now. But it takes, you know, in every situation, like a lot of my people that I'm friends with, they rely on me for oil and gas, and I may rely on them for education. It's just carbon sequestration. It was just, like I said, I take responsibility for it more than anybody down there because I was in the oil and gas business. I'm a private property rights guy, and I missed it, and I just missed it.
Well,
Yeah, well,
not to beat a dead horse too much, but it just reminded me of that whole Nancy Pelosi thing. You know, you got to vote on it first, then you can go read it type deal. But you know, and I viewed it, and I said it, I think a couple of weeks ago that I viewed it as Fleming was just trying to gin up a little controversy and get some Facebook hits and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know what his reason for, but hey, more power to him. Let's get it out there. Now, what y'all may want to know too that you may not know is I'm going to explain this to your viewers because this is important to Caddo Bossier Parish. The Caddo Bossier Port, which I consider the greatest con that ever happened to Caddo Bossier, that's a whole different show. They are working to bring a direct air capture into their port, which at about $500 million. But of course, you go through the port, you don't pay any property taxes, you don't pay any sales tax, you don't add anything to the community, you just enrich people out there at the port, but that's beside the point. But they're going to be capturing the CO2 and they're going to be shipping it to Vernon Parish, is what I'm being told. These pipelines and people that are going to be running through their yards, people's yards, they may take existing pipelines and use them. CO2, this is a problem with CO2 in pipelines. There's no additive. You know how you can put additive. The smell of natural gas is, natural gas is odorless. There's an additive put in the natural gas that makes you be able to smell it. It smells like rotten eggs. So we're accustomed to, we smell that smell, we get on the phone and call somebody, hey, I got a gas leak. CO2, they do not put those additives in there. It has a negative reaction to CO2. The problem with this is this. CO2 is 1.5 times heavier than air. So when you have a leak, the gas wants to hover right at the ground level. Where natural gas is lighter than air, so it wants to rise and disperse. If you have a rupture of a CO2 pipeline near your property, your house, or you drive into it, you'll never know it till it's odorless. Asphyxiation is the biggest threat to you because you're just going to be asphyxiated if you get into much of that CO2. It happened in Mississippi. It's happened before. And this is going to be, if they use existing pipelines, people are not going to know the CO2 is going through their property. And it's a serious threat for no positive gain. That's the biggest issue there too.
Well, and look, there's somebody who used a pipeline. I mean, and I support the pipeline, oil and gas industry, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not really harping on that subject. But, pipelines themselves can be dangerous. I'm not saying that they are. I mean, we did a job where we were taking up a pipeline that was like put down in the 1920s and 30s, and it was literally just held together with these rusting collars that were bolted together, and the coating around it was like tar paper that was falling off, and the pipe was all rusted. And this was a 36-inch line that was still being actively used until we came in to swap it out. I mean, so there's dangers in all of it. To me, the biggest thing is just it's stupid. It's a
It is
stupid way for
stupidity.
people to get our taxpayer dollars.
That's
Well,
exactly
Danny,
right. And you know,
you and Chuck, y'all tried to put several bills in place. You tried to, get. I would say you slowed the momentum down a little bit. Y'all's work brought attention to the subject and forced a lot of questions, or forced a lot of answers to questions, kind of out in a public way that I would contend have started, the transparency ball to rolling. Because I mean, I was watching just before we came on. I saw a live show of some town hall down south. I'm not sure where it was, but again, citizens were at this meeting asking questions, and you know, there's a lot of that going on now. I mean, we're going to be seeing that here pretty soon up here.
well, I don't know. Well, probably not, because we don't have any carbon sequestration going on. We only have the direct air capture unit in the pipelines, and I don't think the people are going to know about it unless some kind of danger arises. We were even covered. My biggest concern is, in Mississippi, when they had that pipeline rupture, people were driving into the CO2 cloud and didn't know it was there. It was odorless. They were falling out, foaming at the mouth. The rescue workers went to go in there to the fire department, went in there to assist these people, and their vehicles started stalling out because there was not enough oxygen in the air to run their combustible engines. And they actually had to get out, put on respirators, and walk to the people and help them. And something else we covered is the fire departments won't even know where these CO exist. There's nothing. We tried to work on laws to get that passed, and they were able to kill them. And
All right.
so we not only can it negatively affect personnel, but the local fire departments won't even be told where these CO2 pipelines are at.
All right, not to interrupt you, Danny. Chris, can you hear
100%.
me? Okay, we got you, Chris. We got audio. I don't know
Yeah,
what
that's
the heck is
100.
going on.
Yeah, that's 100% right what you're saying, Danny, about that. And sorry
Yeah,
about my technical issues. It took me 6 months to figure out how to turn one on. But now, but I'm glad to be with y'all. I wanted to come on even before I realized that the great Danny McCormick was coming on. And now I'd have been willing to do just about anything to be able to get on to talk to y'all. And I really just wanted to come on so I could, first of all, just recognize Danny for fighting like a true warrior from North Louisiana for some extraordinarily important CCS bills. His moratorium bill, to put a year moratorium on it, his bill to outlaw it altogether. And his willingness, quite frankly, to acknowledge in 2020 that he, like everybody else, really didn't even understand what this issue was, and voted for it, and publicly said it was a dumb thing to do, and he's spent all his time since then trying to make all this right. And I'm just very thankful for him. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because we see Danny in the legislature every day during the session. My organization, LACAG, does, and it's just unfortunate that the overwhelming majority of really, really good, solid bills on carbon capture were killed. As Danny may have already mentioned, I think he may have talked about a little bit in the House Natural Resources Committee. And I want to make sure that your listeners know the Republicans who consistently killed these good bills. I'm talking about Rodney Schermerhorn's bill on eminent domain. Talking about his bill to set up a victim's lien in case of carbon capture accidents. I'm talking about Danny's bill to put a moratorium on it. His bill to outlaw it altogether. Just bill after bill after bill was killed by the same Republicans. Zizarang, Joseph Ogeron, Jessica, eminent domain, and that's my State of Freedom, my co-host's nickname for Jessica Domain, eminent domain, because she's voted over every single vote she makes is against any rollback on carbon capture sequestration. You got Jeremy Lacombe, who consistently voted against it. Jacob Broad, when he was there, he didn't bother to show up much of the time, but when he was there, he voted against good legislation. And it's one of these things that, and I'm trying to think who else was. Tim Kerner. Tim Kerner was a consistent bad vote. I will give some credit to Jason DeWitt, even though he hurt us badly on these votes as a Republican. He did come back on a follow-up vote on a bill and voted the right way. But it's important for people to understand that the indignity that was done here, because these bills did not even get out of the House Natural Resources Committee. And Danny can tell you that the numbers down there on April 29th were overwhelming in favor of these bills. I mean, that committee room was absolutely packed with citizens from all over Louisiana, in favor
I
of
got a
this.
question though. So let me pose a question. I'll pose it to Danny first, and then Chris, you can chime in. So I want to know the people that are for this carbon sequestration, and arguably for taking, or I guess they would be against property rights and for the sequestration. Do y'all get the sense that they are true believers in this, let's call it technology? I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. Or is there some kind of nefariousness going on or money grab? I'm just curious as to what you think the majority of the people. So I'll let Danny, you take a politically correct stab at it, and then Chris have at it.
I'm not very good at that, but I call them. I can tell you about them. They'll tell you they don't believe it. They tell you it's just the money, and that's it. They don't even hide the fact that they think it's stupidity. The lobbyists kept coming to the table testifying for these bills, and I asked them what are they concerned about property rights, and they kept saying this is going to be. And their answer was this is billions of dollars worth of economic development. And I kept pressing on them, and they changed it to tens of billions of dollars of economic development. And in the big picture, I don't see how taxing people at a federal level and piping the money down here is economic development. But in South Louisiana, that's a big part of their business model down there. Lots of them is just federal dollars. So that's what they're behind. So no, they don't even pretend that they believe the technology is worthwhile. They just think that it's going to create, or they think it's going to create a market where they can sell more things overseas into communities and that are going to bring a higher price, and they think it's worth it. But what they did forget though, and I told the lobbyists this, at the beginning of the year, I said, y'all have already lost, guys. I said, you don't have sense enough to know it. I said, the people of Louisiana, you can tax them to death. I said, they'll just keep paying them. I said, I don't understand it. Don't make sense to me. They'll just keep paying it. You come after their private property rights, and they coming after you. That land is their castle. That's their domain. You're not going to win that fight. You can just tax them until they can't even hardly afford supper, and they'll pay it and whine and go on about their business. You're coming after private property rights. You didn't waken a sleeping giant. I said, y'all have lost. Y'all just don't have sense enough to know it. And I'll say that tonight. They've lost. The fight's not over yet, but they've lost. Private property rights will win in this state.
It's like the Mexican army trying to dig a foxhole in your yard. That invasion ain't going to happen, bro.
and to echo that, I'll tell you this whole racket was passed in 2020 under the pretext that it was an environmental good, and that we needed to do this to protect the environment. And I can tell you now that during the whole session on these bills this past session, there was not one single argument made by the proponents of carbon capture sequestration about how we need to protect the environment. They don't even try to put forth that lie anymore. It is all about the money. That's all they said was about creating jobs. And as Danny said, sorry, but you're creating jobs with our money. you're taxing this whole, you're propping this whole racket up with our money. And so I just made two demands down there during this session. You can do all the carbon capture sequestration you want, but don't use our money and don't do it on our property if we don't want it there. With those two conditions, you can do whatever you want with carbon capture sequestration. And you know what would happen? It would fold up like a cheap suit, because it is not organically a profitable enterprise, and everybody knows that. And without 45Q tax subsidies and direct tax money, this thing would flop like you wouldn't believe. And it's all about the money, but it's a lie to say that it's real economic development, because it's not. It's a taxpayer subsidized scam. That's what it is.
Well, that is why I think it's now become a issue in the Senate race. I think that again, I'm not going to debate the the wisdom in, as like Danny said, all of the whole legislature are going out. I question that. I mean, but whatever. But taking the position of the people on no, you shouldn't be able to do it. I mean, definitely that's the ground to be standing on. That is exactly where you want to be. And at the end of the day, do we find people making their decision in their political races on whether or not somebody opposes or supports, government or private industry just coming in and abusing you and your property rights? I think what Rex said is correct. I think it's the line in the sand that people are going to draw. I mean, or Danny said, tax us to death, but you go jacking with my property, game over, bub. I think that's how it shakes out. I really do.
And
I
it is,
can
and
say,
down here, as you know, as Danny probably knows, down here in South Louisiana now, even though the session's not over, and Danny, you're up there in God's country now, but I'll tell you that the people down here right now, they're having town halls left and right with 400 or 500 people, 600 people there, and they are hot because of this and because of what happened this past session. Believe me, the momentum is very much on the side of private property owners against this.
let me ask y'all, I'll ask all three of y'all this question. I don't know if guess I'm hosting the show now, right?
Do it to it, bro.
Have
Run
y'all
with
heard
it.
any of the Have you heard of any of the elected congressmen or senators come out against this? Has any of our two senators or our Republican congressmen, have you heard any of them come out against this?
Don't make me say something mean tonight about the sitting U.S. congressmen and senators. Go ahead, Mr. Lowry.
Well, no. Well, I know, Danny. No, I haven't heard a peep. Not a thing. Nothing.
Imagine that.
I've only heard one public official in our state, other than people like Danny McCormick, the few state reps, Chuck Owen, Rodney Shamerhorn, and a few others. There's only one statewide elected official in the state right now who has taken a hard stance against this, and that's John Fleming. And and he's been very consistent about it. He's gone to some of the meetings, and I think he's deeply opposed to this, constitutionally and morally. And but he's not a senator or a representative, a U.S. representative, obviously.
Let me ask you. Let me tell y'all why I think that they haven't. Being an elected politician, especially in Louisiana, it seems like, because our people just matter of fact are as a group we're less financially capable than in a lot of other states. Is because I think those representatives and senators are weighing between their donors, which are going to be the ones for the carbon sequestration, and their constituents. I think they're treading that line, and I think they've made a mistake because I don't think they've realized how these constituents appreciate their private property rights. And I think that a lot of them think as long as they can get the big bucks in their bank account, they can bamboozle their way into office again. And I think that's a mistake they're making.
Very
I do
interesting.
too. I couldn't agree with that anymore. And no, we know the votes. We know who killed these bills, and we know what to do about it as well.
Yeah, and just kind of along the lines of the property rights, I'll just equate it a little bit to fishing. We've got a big deal here in Louisiana about property rights, and especially in the Atchafalaya Basin. What's going on down there where, most of the big bass fishing tournaments and all that, they're not coming back to fish certain areas of Louisiana because of the property rights issue. So I think you're 100% correct, Danny, that, look, people will pay taxes and they'll gripe about it, but mess with their property and they're going to come out with a shotgun.
That's right.
Well said.
Well, so Rex, go into our notes here. There's another there's a little video here I want you to play. The first link that I have, if you can get that geared up and ready. Chris, you're kind of welcome to hang out, but you might not want to be a part of this next part.
Well,
that's up to
you.
you.
Call in.
If you're
What's the next part?
Well, we're going to talk about politicians.
It's my public. Let me tell Chris. The next part is my public statement against Speaker Mike Johnson, criticizing Thomas Massey for wanting to for not releasing the Epstein files. So this is my public.
I read it.
My special release.
I read it and I agree with it, and I think that weaponizing religion, weaponizing our faith in that way, I think is disgraceful. And I think what you said was entirely appropriate. And the feeble excuse.
As a leader of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, that for him to say that, well, of course we want justice for in the Epstein case, we want all the credible evidence to come out, but we want to protect victims. There's a way to redact all that out of there and protect victims, but we can't be protecting perpetrators, and we can't be cutting out of the U.S. Congress the day before you're going to hold a vote just to avoid a vote. So I agree with you 100% on that, Danny.
So let's play the video, what we're talking about, because the folks watching the show may not have any clue of what we're talking about. And, Danny took a strong public position on this statement. I think Rex and I showed this on the last show because when I first saw it, it caught my attention and it kind of ran all over me. And that's what me and Danny were talking about. And I told Danny, look, you're on vacation, enjoy your vacation. Don't let this eat at you, just put this aside. But let's show everybody what we're talking about. Go ahead and play it, Rex.
All right, so let me get them kind of dragged in here where we can all enjoy this at the same time. And I say that kind of loosely here, so give me just about half a second here, and I'll get this prepped up. All right, so this is the YouTube link with MJ responding to Thomas Massey, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let me click a couple of buttons here, and here we go.
Of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program. Okay, that's my job. I go all around the country. I travel endlessly, incessantly. I have to raise over $300 million to do that, and we want everybody to come back. And some people, I try to protect them from themselves. They kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrated than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massey's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massey could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do. But in me and my way, I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, never speak evil of another Republican. My gosh, it's hard to do sometimes around here. I also try to follow the scripture. It says, bless those who persecute you. So let me just say about Thomas Massey, could you just accept my Southern, bless his heart, okay? I don't know what else to say about it. We're for maximum transparency. We're engaging in that right now, and we don't need political games.
Interesting.
So that touched a nerve, huh, Danny?
It did.
Logan
I did.
Lutuso is finally speaking.
Sorry, guys.
It did, and I would like to say too that, on a serious note, I take no pleasure, and I mean that seriously. I don't take any pleasure in that press release that I put out, and I will kind of tell you, as we mentioned earlier, Duke, and as you know, a week ago I made the comment of how aggravated I was, and I usually have about 48 hours that I start getting unaggravated, and so I gave myself a week before I decided to put this press release out. I didn't. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. I talked to somebody that helps me politically. That I said, "Do you think I should do this?" And he said, "Politically speaking, no. There's no benefit of putting this out." And I said, "Well, I feel duty bound to put it out because, Speaker Johnson is my congressman." I said, and really think about it, guys. If I don't, what other elected official, even if they believe what my press release says, what other elected official would put it out there? I felt duty bound to do it. And let me say this about Congressman Johnson. I've always considered him moderate. When he was in Baton Rouge, he was a moderate, and I didn't have anything against him by any means, but he was a moderate. And he went to Washington, and he pretty much stayed a moderate. But most cases he voted, mostly good. But since he's become speaker, he's made some really votes that concern me. And I want to mention some of these votes that kind of led me up to the point to I think that press release needed to go out. Are y'all familiar with FISA? FISA is the I don't remember what the
702.
acronym actually spells. Yeah, and
The
what it was,
702 data thing, yeah.
It's basically what allows the federal government to spy on American citizens without a warrant. This was before President Trump was for office, when Speaker Johnson was the speaker. He had voted against these things all through his career, but then he becomes speaker. It comes up for renewal. And before they go to vote on it, somebody tries to put an amendment on there that says you have to have a warrant before you can spy electronically on U.S. citizens. And Speaker Johnson cast the vote that killed that amendment. The final vote was 212-212, and he had to cast the 212 vote, which made it a tie, which killed that. So Speaker Johnson is something being a big Second Amendment guy. I don't think the government should be spying on me. And Speaker Johnson made that vote, and to me, he was on the wrong side of that vote. And Thomas Massey was on the right side of that vote. Then it comes to my personal opinion. I'm concerned about the national debt. I'm concerned about the federal funding of the war in Ukraine. There's been, I'm understanding, 1.5 million Ukrainians killed in that war, and don't know how many Russians. Speaker Johnson has voted to fund that war. I think it's a very serious vote. When you vote making votes that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are dying, and that's a serious vote. And that's a vote I disagreed with him on, and one that Thomas Massey, I thought, was on the right side. Then it comes to the national debt, which may be the most aggravating part to me all along. This last vote was, I don't know where it wound up, over $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion. It's going to grow the national debt. What most people don't realize, though, it had added about another $2 trillion to the unfunded liabilities that are off the books. So somewhere between $3.5 and $4 trillion. Speaker Johnson is promoting this budget that puts us in that kind of debt. That's something Thomas Massey took a stand on. You kind of see a pattern here where I'm going. And then it come out to this. So I'm not appreciative of my congressman and his votes, but I have not been saying anything. I've been staying silent. But I have been watching Thomas Massey, and in my opinion, I don't agree with anybody all the time, but on most sides, I think he's very principled. He's on the right side of the votes. And then I seen y'all show. Y'all enlightened me with this clip that we just watched, and I was really aggravated about Congressman Johnson's attitude. I thought it was sarcastic. I thought it was rude. I thought he was, you know, you don't really hear him talking about the children. He's talking about Thomas Massey, and he runs the Incumbent Protection Program. Did y'all realize there was an Incumbent Protection Program in Washington? I knew there was. I didn't know anybody would actually say that out loud, though. What if there are no good Republicans? Are you just going to reelect them anyhow? You know, I mean, and you know, and then he, I mean, everything. I mean, Congressman Scalise was in the back of him, backslapping him through the whole deal. I was discouraged when I seen him do that. You know, it was just, and then the part that got me, the part that put me over the edge, was when he pulled scriptures and made it sound like me and God, Thomas Massey is against me and God. And you know, to being a Christian, my beliefs are very rooted. You know, I'm a sinner. Every morning I wake up, I fight the good and evil in my own heart. I have no high ground, and Speaker Mike Johnson has no high ground neither. And for him to say that, to use scriptures to belittle somebody that I believe has been taking hard votes that he should be taking, that he's not, I just felt like I was duty bound to put out that press release. Just letting, because how many people y'all think in our community even really know who Thomas Massey is? Probably really very few. You know, more people are trying to make a living. They don't follow politics like we do. How many people how many people do you think in Mike Johnson's district know he was the vote that keeps the warrantless the federal government able to spy on the American citizens without warrants? He was that vote. He wasn't one of the 212. He voted last. How many of his people do you think do know that? And you know, I guess what I could say is, you know, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I'll say this: I think on these votes that Mike Johnson made a mistake. We just talked about me, the mistake I made. So hopefully this will encourage Mike Johnson to look at himself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm the third most powerfulest man in the world. I have all of this power. I need to respect the people that are taking conservative stances, and maybe I need to look more like them instead of look like me. So, you know, maybe I'll have a question to ask me, but you know, I just want to, I don't take any pride in doing this whatsoever, but I think it's necessary to be done. I think, you know, one promise I made my people when I got elected is I tell them what I seen the truth is. And to me, this is cut and dry. Speaker Johnson needs to apologize, and he needs to change his ways.
Can I add something to the FISA vote? I just wanted to say that after that vote, he came out and said, why did you do that? You know, your vote was the deciding vote to continue warrantless spying on American citizens in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Why'd you do that? And he said, well, I was in the SCIF. I was in the meeting where they talked about all the foreign threats we face, so forth. And you know, you don't know everything that I know. You didn't see everything that I see. And so, and if you did, you'd understand. Well, Thomas Massey said, look, I was in the same meeting that he was in. I was in the same meeting that he was in, and I didn't hear anything that justified abridging the Fourth Amendment and allowing warrantless spying on American citizens. And so, you know, I thought that was interesting. Johnson's excuse for making that vote and then Massey's response to it.
Well, I would just like to point out, Mr. Alexander and Mr. McCormick, that Mike Johnston is a constitutional lawyer and scholar. He knows that Constitution inside and out, so he must know better than all us little people, and must know better than Congressman Massey. I mean, gosh, Mike.
I think the problem here is just a simple interpretation. I think our definitions of transparency is different than his definition of transparency, because if his were ours, same as our definition, there's no way he would have been that vote. Impossible. But
well, and I'll just throw out too, back to, well, just real quick, back to the Incumbent Protection Program. That's what Mike does. Mike is, you know, let me see how I can put this kind of nicely. Mike is all about Mike and staying elected. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and you know what it makes it look like is, like you said, he has, you know, two things that kill you in this business, and Lord, I guess I'm in this business. I'm elected official, right? A lot lower tier than him, but I'm still elected official. Is having political ambition. You know, once you have political ambition, you know, what are my limits to what I'll do then? And you know, political. I think Mike is, and I say this. I don't say this sarcastically. I think he has political ambitions, and I think he's weak. I think that's his two faults. And when he gets politically threatened, his weakness gives in, and that's not leadership. You know, one thing I can say about Trump, he's not weak, you know, whatsoever. He doesn't. I mean, goodness gracious, he doesn't give in. You know, I'm sure I don't agree with him on everything, but he's not weak, and that's what's concerning to me about Mike. Those two things right there. I'll say this. You know, he's Speaker of the House. He's not lazy. He's got to be a hard worker to be Speaker of the House. I mean, I'm sure it's got to be a tough job. You know, he's got good attributes, but I think those two, you know, political ambition, his weakness, is his fault that he needs to work on. And he doesn't understand his constituents. Anything he can get up there and criticize Thomas Massey, which if his constituents knew what Thomas thought and knew what he truly thought, they would be on Thomas's side. He doesn't know that, or he thinks that he can convince them otherwise. I'm trying not to be too critical of him. I want to keep it on point and hope he does change. I hope he changes. I hope he you know, changes his view. I hope this spurs him into, I mean, he's in a position to do a lot of things. You know, I asked somebody this question today. You know, I keep asking everybody, I mean, why are we happy that Mike Johnson is Speaker of the House? How does that benefit us? Well, you know, I said, you know, is I-49 through Shreveport, have they started working on that yet? Has that happened? Well, no, not that I know of. Well, what's happened here since he's Speaker of House that we've got so much more clout in Washington, and I don't see it, you know. So, but anyhow, I'm gonna stop rambling. Maybe I want to ask a question.
Danny,
Something.
can I ask you a quick question on this Epstein deal? The controversy about that. What is the what's your response to Speaker Johnson's position that, of course, we want to expose Epstein, we want to expose all the perpetrators, but releasing all of this information jeopardizes the identity of minors who have been damaged and who have been abused, and that would be harmful to them.
I'm not an attorney. I barely can spell attorney, and I know you can release all this information and take their names out. You can use fictitious names even for them. That's not even. I mean, that is so silly. That's claiming the high ground again when you don't have the high ground. I'm just wanting to protect the innocents. Well, Speaker Mike Johnson, it was, I think, 2019. Epstein was in prison. It's been 6 years. And nobody's been convicted of all these crimes. I believe you may be the one behind the eight ball here, not Thomas Massey. And because you know that's like I said, I can't even spell attorney, and I know that's a silly statement to make. Nobody wants the names released of these people that were victims. You take the names
as
out.
An attorney, Danny, as an attorney, I can tell you that that excuse is very feeble, because I mean, things are redacted out of documents every day where you wouldn't have any idea the identity of a victim, but you would certainly be aware of the perpetrator. So if it's important, which this is, to give public access to the information of who these perpetrators are, there's absolutely a way to, in a very definitive way, redact the identity of the victims. So that's really not a very tenable explanation.
Yeah, and I agree. The question is how many folks, here at home in Mike's district, understand and really appreciate the fact that, he's taken the position to not release that. And the vote on, enabling the warrantless searches. I mean, if we're going to be transparent, I mean, why should a judge not have to review whether or not to issue a warrant and to look at whatever they needed to look at? That's an easy thing to do. That's not hard. But to vote against
It, it,
that,
it,
that's
isn't that called due process? I mean, isn't that part of our constitutional rights? Am I
Yeah,
mistaken there, or is that correct?
100%. And it's not like you're talking about something that couldn't possibly be any more serious. You're talking about a direct infringement on a constitutionally protected right of privacy. And you're basically saying it's okay for the government to spy on American citizens who have committed no crime without any probable cause and without a warrant. I mean, that is extraordinarily serious.
Hey,
And
I got a question for
it
y'all.
brought that up.
So I'm going to take us off on a tangent here. So, Mr. McCormick, be careful how you answer this if you choose to answer it. So, the main guy that broke the whole NSA and warrantless search system with the NSA and FISA court system and all that was a guy named Edward Snowden. And Edward Snowden is in Russia right now, not because he's any fan of Putin. It's a long story, but he was basically forced there for the most part. So I want to know what you guys think of Edward Snowden. Mr. Alexander, would you like to take that hot potato first?
I think that absolutely. And I think that Edward Snowden in my view, I think he did a service to the Constitution. I think he did a service to the American people because what he disclosed were constitutional violations of the highest order. And any government that can engage in that kind of activity with impunity is not a government of, by, and for the people. And, that's my position, and I think that Snowden will go down in history as an American patriot.
And I'll say I agree 100%. I'm very familiar with the Snowden, and heard him speak a couple of times. He's very intelligent. I consider him American hero. And how can American hero that broke this go to Russia instead of here in the United States? The politicians that forced him to go to Russia should be in Russia, and he should be over here. They should be the ones in jail, and he should be walking. They ought to be doing parades and down the street for him. 100% behind what Snowden did. I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about his personal life, but that particular issue, he did the right thing. And there again, it wasn't the easy thing to do. If he just kept his mouth shut, he could have been living here, living the good life. But he took a hit, and and we're protecting the incumbents. Golly, Snowden is nobody, and the incumbents need protected. I assume that's, nobody mentioned term limits there. I don't. Kind of getting excited here. I'm gonna stop talking again.
well,
and
well,
that's why we like you, Danny.
yeah. I agree with both of y'all's assessment. I mean, I feel the same way, and I think that every day that goes by, as the onion gets peeled back a little more and a little more, I think all these conspiracy theories that continue to be proven true are proven that Edward Snowden was right, that we have a problem with our government, and I can tell you, I didn't even I knew we had a problem. I had no idea it was just as bad as what it is. I mean, and every day it's being proven right more and more and more and more and more. And so, yeah, I agree with y'all.
Well, I'm absolutely on board with all three of your answers. That's what I wanted to hear. It makes me a happy camper.
Well, We could
Well,
probably
we need
keep.
10 more. We need about 10 more. We need about 10 more. We need about 15 or 20 more Danny McCormicks down here in Baton Rouge. And so we're gonna try to recruit some to replace some of these globalists and these rhinos, because the thing that LeCag, my organization, and others find the most offensive about what occurs in our legislature is that you have real American conservatives and real constitutionalists who fight their asses off in order to protect the citizens of our state, to honor the Constitution, and you have colleagues sitting right there next to them who betray them and who undermine them and who do everything they can to make sure that what they're trying to do is not successful. And I just think that that's abhorrent, particularly when so many of these Republicans run. When they're running for office, I promise you, when they're running for office, if you listen to what people like Danny McCormick and Rodney Schamerhorn and Chuck Owen say when they're running for office, and then listen to what some of these other rhinos say when they're running for office, what they say is almost identical. The difference is that when Danny McCormick gets to office, he doesn't forget where he came from, whereas these other people sell out and they get in bed with the big special interest groups, and then they start trying to screw us over. And the biggest thing that they're afraid of is that their constituents are going to find out about it. And let me tell you, they're going to find out about it. They're finding out about it right now.
Sellout. That's a good operative word for certain politicians, including MJ, who walks on water. But I digress. All right, Mr. Lowry.
Danny, any closing words? And we're going to close this section out. And Chris, we appreciate you coming on. And Danny, I'll let you have the last word in this section.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, I think I do want to see, to people to take my public statement, my press release as a defense of Thomas Massey and his principles and the votes I mentioned earlier that he took, that Mike Johnson took the opposite vote on. It's really about that. It's not really about, it's about me as a constituent holding my Congressman, Speaker Mike Johnson, accountable. And that's what it's about. It's nothing petty or, if Mike Johnson comes on y'all's show tomorrow and said, hey, I listened to y'all's show last night and I agree with Danny and McCormick 100% and I'm going to change my votes in Washington, I'll be really, really happy and I'll be glad to support him every step of the way. And, but the proof's in the pudding. You don't, what you say doesn't matter. What you do is what matters. So I appreciate y'all.
Amen.
Thank you for letting me come on tonight. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate everything you do in Baton Rouge, you and LeCag. And appreciate y'all guys coming on Bossier Watch on your own dime and doing what you do. And I appreciate everything.
Y'all are great.
Thank you, guys.
I love your show.
Yep.
Love your show.
You're back at you, Chris.
Yeah, good podcast you have, Chris.
Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight.
We're doing it, bro. We're doing it. You too, Danny. Y'all have a good night. Thank you, guys.
See you later.
You too.
Good night.
Well, so didn't realize that we were going to get off on a Edward Snowden discussion either. That was right up my. I could talk about the Snowden ordeal for, well, I don't know, till probably daylight, but I digress again.
Yeah, something tells me with, I mean, you and I and those two, I think we could probably go all night long.
Yeah, probably so. We could go all night long just bashing MJ. I mean, that's easy.
Well, I don't think it was bashing him so much. I mean, because I promise you, I've got some things I could say, and that you won't see a bash fest. There could be some bashing, and you know that. But I don't think it was. I think it was fair criticism. I'm not a fan of Thomas Massey. It's weird, and I think we even talked about this on the previous show. There, like the things that Danny was talking about. Yeah, I'm on the same page with Thomas Massey, but I think there's some other things. I think his viewpoint on the tariffs, on the other countries and tax policy. I'm not so sure that both him and Rand Paul were ripping Trump, saying that we shouldn't have these tariffs. We shouldn't do this, and it's going to cause doom and gloom. Well, they're talking about giving us all back money. They're talking about giving us all $600 back because we've had so much money coming in, the first time since 2005 or something like that.
Yeah, and look, I may have said it on the show, but I can't remember exactly. We've done so many shows now, but I thought the tariff stance that Trump took was the right stance. I thought there was going to be, and is proving true, some short-term pain for long-term gain. That the situation was so screwed up with the tariff situation and NAFTA and free trade and all that, and has been so screwed up for decades that you're not going to fix that overnight. But in the end, and again, long term, Trump's stance on tariffs has been the right one, and it is forcing some of these other countries to come to the table.
Yeah, I agree. And I truly believe what Trump is trying to do, he's trying to get us back to the gold standard. And, if our government is funded, if he's trying to move us to a place where our government is funded by tariffs and not on the backs of all of us through, income taxes and every other tax known to man, with the intent of ultimately getting rid of all of those taxes off of you and I mean, I'm in favor of it. If it takes time for, say, the tariffs to kick in, produce enough revenue to where they could then take the burden off of all of us, I'm on board with it. And I really believe that's what Trump's plan is. But the problem is these squishy politicians called Congress. I can tell you what Trump's problem is going to be. Trump's problem is going to be is they're going to get that cake of the tariff money. Then they're going to still have that cake of all of our taxes, and they're going to want to eat both cakes and not let go of one of them. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. So Paul Johnson said there no such thing as free trade. I said that kind of tongue in cheek. Trump was 100% right, and I just put up on the screen, ain't no free lunch ever. And to let D.D. White Clark know, our record is 3 hours and 30 minutes, 3 hours and 45 minutes. I don't know if we could do 5 hours, would be stretching it.
5 would be pretty tough. Pretty
all right.
tough. Well, what Bossier City today? There was some pretty interesting stuff went down in Bossier City today.
Yeah, and hence the title of the show. So let's kind of segue over into that. So I don't think we probably need to dwell too much on the workshop, and you and I honestly haven't had time to go through the whole city council meeting, but hence the name of the show, 2,600 meters. I sent you a text while I was watching it live to point out what they were discussing. So let me get this. Let me get the screen set up here. Let's see. Let me get those little squares out of the way from our guests. And it goes back to the story that I was telling at the beginning of the show, which I've told a couple of other times about the water meter situation in Ruston. I didn't realize, did you, Mr. Lowry? I didn't realize that we had such a water meter issue here in the good old city of Bossier.
No idea. I mean, who knew? I don't think that everybody. I don't know if all the council knew that we had a water meter issue until today.
Yeah, I don't either. So I'm going to jump right to that part first, and let's get that out of the way. So this.
Wait a minute.
Let me back up. I got to let Phyllis read the ordinance. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. I just had an epiphany. Welcome to Shreveport.
Oh yeah. Hey, as far as crime and violence goes, we're pretty much on par with them anyway. We may as well just merge the cities together. We'll just divert the Red River around, and we'll join forces, all hold hands, and sing Kumbaya.
And we're going to adopt their water meter policies.
Yeah, exactly. So here, Phyllis is going to read this ordinance out, and I was watching the stream when she read it. When she read it, it was like, ho hum, no big deal. So let's let's start there and then listen to Mr. Hammond's kind of drop the bomb. Here we go.
Introduce an ordinance allocating $250,000 from the Water Capital and Contingency Fund to purchase on-demand water meters. First reading.
All right, so you heard that. They wanted to basically move $250,000 for the water meters and all that. Okay, you know, it sounds like something's kind of hum-ho. Cue Mr. Hammonds.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilwoman Ross, a second by Councilman Maggio. Is there any public comment? And does Brian Hammonds have any comment?
Yes,
is there
actually,
any
I
comment
do.
from the council?
Go for it, Brian.
I'm making up for the last meeting I was gone, and are these just restock meters y'all are purchasing?
It's for new accounts and for, to replace meters that die or break for some reason.
All right, here we go. Listen up.
Okay, since you brought that up about meters that die, how many meters do we have out there right now that aren't actually reading?
Approximately 2,600.
26.
Did y'all hear that? She said approximately 2,600. I mean, that was a perfect tee up by Mr. Hammonds. So how many meters out there are not functioning? 2,600.
600 meters that we have we have no idea how much water they're using.
We're estimating, correct?
They're estimating the water. So remember my story from earlier. They're estimating the water for 2,600 meters. I mean, how many households are in Bossier City proper, I wonder? Does anybody know that number off the top of their head? If Sadow's watching me, he might know. But here we go.
So that is one of the big things we are working on, but it does come with a significant price tag. So we have been looking at different funding mechanisms because we are missing out on revenue, and we do believe that it will pay for itself to have those meters reading accurately.
So, I'm sorry, could y'all please keep it down? Thank you.
I'm sure that's where the audience was in shock. Over 2,600 meters.
Well, you know,
How are
it's
these?
making me think back about some cases in court where people's qualifying for office was determined off of use of water and whether it was.
Was that our good friend Jason Brown?
I'm just wondering, was Jason Brown on an estimated water usage when he was his residency was determined?
Oh, well, they really got into this water thing here, and unfortunately, didn't have time before the show started to really get through there and timestamp all that. I'm going to try to, if I have time in the next day or two, take a couple of clips out of that and play it. But I mean, they really got on the water bandwagon and the whole water meter situation. Let's listen to another couple of minutes of this.
These individuals getting a bill every month.
So we estimate based on their previous 6 months.
And are these residences or commercial?
It's a variety. Some may maybe just be an irrigation meter, so it runs the gamut.
Here we go. Listen.
One more question. How long has this been going on?
These meters are at the end of life. They're
No. How long have these 2,600 not been working?
I'm not sure. I mean, they replace as they're able to, but overall, it's going to be something that does get worse as the meters age out.
Okay, I'll ask my question in a different way. How long has the administration known that these meters were not working?
And we always have there's always a,
She's dodging that.
You always have a group of meters that we're not able to read every single month. We have been aware of the need to replace the meters. This is something that we've been looking at for a couple of years, but to do all of the meters in the city that's needed is close to $20 million.
So I got to stop right there. I mean, that's the apartment manager, guys. Bill Alley, what's his son's name? Ty Alley, I think, and I forget the other guy's names. Forgive me. And they're sitting there going, "Wait a minute! They're trying to extort these increased fees out of all us." And look, personally, I agree with it, but those guys are probably sitting there thinking, "But they got like." Sanal just said 7%, so let's just round it up to 10%. About 10% of the city meters aren't even working. They're estimating them.
But she just said right when you cut the mic to replace all the meters in the whole city did $20 million. Is that what she said?
Let's let her repeat it.
This is something that we've been looking at for a couple of years, but I mean, to do all of the meters in the city that's needed is close to $20 million. And so, you know, one of the things that has been discussed and that, you know, we don't want to go down that road is with new technology. You see a lot of companies using a fee for a smart meter. I know that's one that we see implemented with the power company, but as we earlier discussed, our water bills are already, you know, if you don't.
So we're talking about adding another fee.
No, that is not. We do not want to do that. So that's not an option.
I thought she was going to pull out her crucifix like vampire just walked in and start holding the cross up. No, that is not what we want to do.
That we are pursuing, and so we are trying to find other funding mechanisms, because if we can get the initial meter replacement done with phase one, we do believe we will bring in a substantial amount of revenue that would then help fund the other phase.
Did you catch that? So that it was an important thing she was saying there, because they're estimating, but by replacing these meters that aren't working, they're reasonably sure or certain that they can generate enough extra revenue to pay for these meters, which means they're literally admitting that they know their estimations are stupidly low.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, and I see Jeff Sadow's in the comments, and I'll come back to the tariff issue in a little bit, Jeff. And I know Jeff's on top of this water thing, but it's got me to thinking about the water fund and the mandatory rate increase because it was short. You're telling me for several years, is this not something that would be calculated into the needs of the water fund, or should have been several years ago? Didn't we build a water pipeline to the port so that we wouldn't have to raise prices? But yet,
what was that moron? What was that moron that said something about we're not going to have, by doing that, we wouldn't have to increase the rates? What was that moron? Oh, Montgomery. I'm sorry, not moron. Montgomery. I haven't had to say that name in a while.
But shouldn't this liability have been being calculated, and is it in the reports to the state on the water fund?
Good question.
Has anybody kind of looked at that, and is that something? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm proposing it out there. Shouldn't this have been something that should have been in there?
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. The city's always going to have some water meters that are non-functional, and they get to them and replace them. And later on in this meeting, there was what's his name? Rodney Taylor, I think, came up and said, well, look, there's like a 4-month lead time or backlog on 1-inch meters, and there's a variety, 1/2-inch meters, 3/4-inch, 1-inch meters, depending on the level of water service they need. But he said, like, for instance, the 1-inch meters, there's like a 4-month backlog. So you would expect there to be X number of non-functioning meters. I would just say maybe 1%, 0.5%, I don't know. But if just, Sadow's math is correct, 7%, I mean, 2,600, and that's an even number, so I'm sure they're just guesstimating, and it's probably a low guesstimate or rounding.
Well, she's talking about 20 million for the whole city, and if Sadow's number is 7 to 10% or something like that, I mean, we're talking, a couple of million.
This is, like I said, I was watching this and my jaw dropped.
You would think that would be a number that would be, in the cost of operating a water system. That's an expense, right?
Well, yeah, and Jessica Langley Maddox brings up a good point. What happens if they were actually overbilling? Oh, well.
Well, again, ask the attorney in Shreveport, Jerry Harper. This is like Groundhog Day. I mean, I think they
Yeah.
had the same thing over in Shreveport.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to hit play for another minute or two.
Phases of the replacements.
Okay. I'm not meaning to put you on the
No,
spot.
no, but it is
but,
something that,
yeah.
that we are working to incorporate for the 2026 budget. And so that is definitely, I mean, you will be seeing it very soon, because it is to a point where it's.
So the 2,600 meters that are not reading, what would that cost right now to replace
right, listen
those?
up.
To replace those, it would be around $3 million. We actually have a meeting to get updated prices next week. That is one area where tariffs have had an impact with the technology, with the meters that we purchase. And so we are meeting to get updated information and lead times so that we can get some more accurate numbers to include in the budget for this to.
Okay, and just one more question.
Okay.
And I may have another one, I don't know. We want to talk about fairness has been spouted out a lot. Fairness. How is it fair that I pay a water bill that is red based on what I use? I may not have used as much 6 months ago, but I just paid a $140 water bill the other day, but 6 months ago, it may have only been $70. How is that fair to the citizens of Bossier that 2,600 residences and businesses are not paying their actual water bill?
Right, and we use the actual consumption for that particular account for the previous 6 months, so that we can get our best estimate. We don't use any other data.
So I'm going to stop there. Ryan Haygood has a comment, says, so each one is $7,600. Yeah, if that's the math. And I think Joel actually was running a calculator during the meeting and came up with that. Later on in the meeting, if I remember correctly, not Dale Taylor, Rodney Taylor. Rodney Taylor comes up. I think they actually called him. And he's like, no, I want to say, Ryan, that he said the 1-inch meters were a few hundred. Oh, here we go. We're a few $100s. Let me back it up right here. Hold on.
When you do something, so if that helps you, a little less than 2,000
That's great,
meters.
yeah.
2,000 meters.
I just divided the 3 million by 2,600, which it's a different.
Boy, if that's Rodney Taylor, he's gonna put a belly on him a little bit.
I think that's who it is. Hold on, let's see.
Funny, that kind of looks like Brad Zagoni, but I mean, if you
No.
Rodney,
No. Zagoni called Taylor.
Really, just one of our questions.
Oh, okay.
All right, so hold on. He's coming up.
So wait a minute, you're telling me Zagoni's in charge of water
He
meters
didn't like
now?
coming to the mic.
He's a fire chief. He's got it. All right, listen up.
But out of that account that we use there's other things that are purchased out of that. For like new water meters, the adapters that go with them, the boxes. That's all factored in. That's all spent out of that.
250,000.
So, Rodney, so there's 2,600 or so meters that are not actively working at this point.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be, if we're spending 250,000, let's just go ahead and figure out what it would cost to get 2,600 meters. Get those 2,600, how long is it gonna take to get those 2,600 meters?
That's a good question, because right now we're waiting on a 4-month back order on 1-inch meters. We're at critical low right now.
And that's a 3/4 inch meter that we can get for 1 inch?
No, the 3/4 inch, you're about 125. Don't quote me on that. I have to get you the revised number, but it's about 125.
Okay.
All right.
My suggestion would be to amend this ordinance and go ahead and get the 2,600 meters that we need. He's on a 4-month backlog right now. It could take another 6 months in order to get those in. That way we are getting all 2,600 meters up and running and generating the proper revenue that it should be producing for the city.
All right, so I'll stop right there because it's banter back and forth, and I'd have to scrub up to that. But
Well,
are you in shock like I am?
what did Ruttenbuck have to add? Did he get up there and say, well, when we had this problem in Shreveport, did he say anything like that? I mean, I haven't watched this.
No, not quite. He basically just came up there and ad-libbed and gave some lip service that was completely meaningless and pointless. You know, you got to give credit to Hammonds for calling him to the carpet again. But it's just amazing to me. And here's the question, and Hammonds did try to drive at this, but, you know, he wasn't going to get any answer, and he finally kind of gave up and went on to another line of questioning. But how does this happen? Who is responsible for 2,600 meters in the city of Bossier City not functioning? Who's responsible for that?
Why has that not been communicated to the council? Or was it communicated to the... That's what I'm asking. I mean, again, I go back to the water fund. This is an expense and a liability. Why was it... Surely this was in there.
Look, I have no good answer for this, but it was quite the entertainment there at the meeting. I mean, everybody was just like stunned.
Is that what we're paying? Is that is that what we're paying for with this public-private partnership? Is that what we're getting?
Yeah, I mean, they're just
Shreveport Part Due?
Yeah, just like the heck with all the water meters. We got more important stuff like, you know, like building parking lots for private businesses. More important things to take care of, Duke.
Oh, good grief. Well,
yeah.
Hey, you got to go. There was a pretty good little section, but interestingly, I don't see it in the notes. I see the little dot on there. Oh, there it is at the 25:22 mark.
Of this meeting?
Yep, of that meeting right there.
Okay.
And we just got to hit play.
All right, yeah, I got your timestamp here. Let me switch screens. All right, here we go.
My thought process on all of this is, if we're going to use the term fair, and I don't like using the term fair because fair is not always equitable to everybody, but if we're going to use the term fair, is it fair for a unit that is empty to pay a beautification fee?
You asking me that?
Is
okay,
it,
what
no,
about...
hold on. I'm running the meeting. I'm just, yes or no, is it fair for a vacant unit to pay the beautification fee?
No, may I answer my...
So, because you have a few rent houses in Bossier City, Mayor Chandler.
Oh.
Should we bill you if your rent houses are vacant and you're not collecting income on them? And you don't have a water account set up there?
Okay,
No,
so...
that's...
Let me...
Hold on, I'm going to give you, I promise, I'm going to give you time. I want to get my thoughts out. It's not fair, but we have no mechanism. We can't call the apartment complex owners every month and say, hey, how many units do you have this month that are occupied?
Just sit over there in your...
One, no offense to you guys, I don't trust that you'd give us the right number. You know, and so you use the national average. I'm a real estate agent. When I help someone purchase a rental property, an income-producing property, we account for a 20% vacancy rate. So you use that national average and you say on any given day, the apartment complexes are probably going to be averaging around 80% occupancy. Are there going to be months where they're 100% occupied and they may be getting over on the city? Sure. Are there going to be months that they're well under 80% occupied and the city's getting over on them? Sure. But to go from, this is the biggest issue that I see. A residential home was paying $26 in January. And then in February, they went up to $34. A modest change, but still, that could be a stretch for those on a fixed income that live paycheck to paycheck, that already struggle. $12 is an awful lot to some people. But to go from $12 to $6,000, that could bankrupt somebody. And what could happen is you could have apartment complex owners who say, sorry, we're not going to do pest control. We're not going to mow the grass. We're not going to do deferred maintenance and give you a quality place to live, because we can't afford it, because we've just got hit with a $6,000 a month increase on a bill.
Hey, I want to pause it right there for just a second. So going from a $26 a month bill to a $38 a month bill is a 46.15% increase. I just want to point that out. I just want to point out the actual math on it. It's a 46% increase. It's not just $12. All right, here we go.
And then what happens there is you have apartment complexes that become dilapidated, that are on the news because of the unsanitary living conditions. Or heck, what if they go out of business and now you have 300 people that are now homeless because the apartment complex shut down? They just couldn't afford to do it. I see no issue charging them a fair rate. And we can argue all day long whether they should have been paying attention and seen this come through, because it was discussed in September and October and November. But we're going to hold them to that standard. Let's hold all 68,000 people that live in Bossier City to that standard. Let's hold all 300,000 that live in the MSA that drive on our roads every day. Let's hold them to that standard. And if we're holding everybody to that standard, this room wouldn't be big enough to hold everybody. People just don't follow until it's something piques their interest and they need to follow. And so addressing that, hey, you know what, it may have been the right policy. It's okay to say we messed up a little bit in the implementation process. It doesn't make us bad at our jobs. It doesn't make us, bad city councilman or a bad mayor. No, it just, actually, I think it shows integrity to say we made a mistake and we could do this a better way. And so that's what I see. And if we're right now on pace to be around 8.8 million, and we might have a few other expenditures, this $400,000 perceived deficit might be net neutral and might not be a deficit, might have a balanced budget after all.
Now, keep in mind, they don't know
if this fails today,
meters.
Even if this fails today, we're going to...
Yeah, let me pause, and I'm sorry, everybody. We jump back in time. This is before Hammonds' question about the 2,600 meters. Okay, good point, dude.
Yeah,
I have
these guys, they didn't know that.
$24,000 deficit. So the budget's not balanced. So to chastise us here in front of everybody because you don't like it and say that we're ruining a balanced budget is the most far-fetched. I mean, we're living in Gaga land. I mean, it's not based on reality, because we're going to have a deficit whether this passes or not.
Ruining a balanced budget.
And what I took from last night was that almost every single person that came to that podium, they had no issue really with the $12. What they had an issue with is they don't perceive that they're getting their value. There's a man that's sitting right here who's been complaining about trash in a chair in his neighborhood for 3 or 4 weeks. And it's still sitting there. Even after last night, we didn't send Public Works there to get it.
Yeah,
so
other story.
If we're going to talk fair, let's have an open conversation about what fair is. Because I've instructed every single one of these city councilmen that if there's an issue, to copy you on it as the mayor, to copy Ms. Nottingham, Ms. McGraw, and myself. So we know, and I tell you what, my email is flooding of requests. Ms. Ross had a lady here last night talking about a ditch on Broadway. That request was turned in 3 weeks ago. So we can have a conversation about what's fair. So, Mayor Chandler, you can have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Well, first of all, Public Works don't have enough people working for them anyway. That's why we got the extra people helping cut the roads as it is right now.
What?
All right, so we want to be fair. I'm not picking on these guys, and I was not talking anything bad about y'all, about nothing about that. I was talking about we run for all the 60-something thousand people, citizens. All right, they're not going to be able to pay for 5 years, but all the other citizens are going to have to pay the $12. All right, what about Ms. Jones in a rent house? She's got to pay for that meter. Do y'all going to adjust her pay? She's not, so that she adjusts her rent? No. You're gonna have multiple people like that, and you have a bunch of people who have these other complexes that have individual things. So if we're gonna be even and fair on everything, just let the whole citizens have it off for the whole 5 months, and then start from there.
Then why didn't we make this change 4 years ago?
Wait a second, I didn't vote on this. Y'all voted on it the last time, and made it a law, a deal, okay?
I know you voted. What am
I'm
I?
sorry, I would love to vote, but I don't get to vote. But I didn't vote this in back last time.
He has a point.
In my opinion, this is politics at its worst. This is taking a opportunity to pit some citizens against others.
I would be remiss if I didn't point out, as much as I'm on Tommy all the time, this is one of the first times since he got his nuts cut with the whole Shane Cheatham deal, that he's actually taken a stand a little bit. I gotta say, I'm a little proud of Tommy for giving a little pushback finally.
Listen, I don't know. Something just occurred to me. Where are these 2,600 meters that don't work?
They're scattered all over the city. It would be interesting to get a map of them.
Well, wait a minute. If there's 2,600 that are estimated, I don't know. I'm just thinking. I wonder how many apartments there are.
I think they said, seems like the number 6,000 is sticking in my head, but
okay, I don't know.
I could be wrong. Yeah, it's late. I could be wrong.
Theory week. Yeah, it's late. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, that's it. They went at it pretty good, and I thought that was pretty amazing. I mean, look, like it or not, whichever side of the equation you're on, you're getting public debate on issues. You didn't get this before.
No,
you didn't get this.
And look, I would encourage everybody, if you haven't watched the workshop, go to the City of Bossier City's YouTube channel, watch the workshop, and watch this meeting. I mean, look, like them or not, agree with all this or not, there is a different demeanor in the air of these meetings where they're having some dialogue and debate, and not just being yes men listening to blowhard Montgomery sitting there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I want to go back before we close the show out. When I was talking about the tariffs earlier, Jeff Sadow had a comment, and he was just basically saying there's no way that the tariffs would offset, income taxes and all of that stuff. And, look, I'm sure that he's right. I'm sure he's probably right. But here's what I do know. What I do know is that Trump made it. I mean, he said it, and I could go find the comment, but he said he wanted to get rid of the income tax on people. He wanted to get rid of that. And I don't care whether it's a combination of tariffs or a widget subsidy tax or whatever, however he comes together and puts it. But I think his primary goal is to get rid of the taxation on everybody in the form of an income tax. And I support that. I support that. Obviously, I'd want to see how the rest of it pans out, but I think he's well on his way to trying to do it. And I think he's going to be successful, unless the only impediment is going to be Congress and these squishy Republicans, that say they want to do everything to help you, say they want transparency, but then they pull the transparency rug right out from under you at the last second. You
mean they speak outside of both sides of their mouth?
Yeah. So any way you cut it, I mean, look, I think Trump is trying to do what he believes is the best for everybody, and so far, I like what he's doing. I don't care. Y'all can hate his guts.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that there are some things that I disagree with Trump on. Overall, I think he is doing a good job and has the country's best interests at heart overall. Are there some things that I agree with? Yep. But,
that's part of the process. So, all right. Speaking of agreeing and disagreeing, would you agree that it's 9:15 and about time to close out the show?
2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, that's salty. And we've held folks for a while. Y'all have all lived through the torture with us another evening, and we are thankful that you're here. We're thankful that you find our commentary to be interesting and hopefully helpful. And we will do it again, and we hope to see you again in the future.
I couldn't have said it any better. I am going to hit the finish button, and I will see you. I guess it'll be week after next, but I will double check and let you know my schedule.
You will see me probably Thursday on Outdoor News.
Oh yeah, I will see you Thursday, and we'll share it out on Bossier Watch too. We may get a couple of local duck hunters to actually watch it. Yes, we will see each other Thursday night again, and then Bossier Watch will be the following deal. We'll post it all on the Facebook page for everybody. All right.
Yep. Have a good night. See you.
See ya.